The amber streetlights of Denver's historic Riverside district cast dancing shadows across rain-slicked cobblestones as Luna Martinez steps out of the community center, her arms full of donated art supplies for tomorrow's after-school program. The October wind carries the scent of autumn leaves and fresh coffee from the late-night cafes that dot this vibrant neighborhood she's called home for the past 5 years. She's exhausted from another 16-hour day split between her job at the local elementary school and her volunteer work, yet there's a contentment in her tired smile. This is exactly where she belongs, exactly where she can make the biggest difference. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. As she approaches the corner of Elm and 3rd Avenue, something catches her attention through the gentle drizzle. A man in an expensive-looking coat stands under the flickering glow of an old-fashioned street lamp, studying his phone with obvious frustration. His designer shoes, polished leather that probably costs more than Luna's monthly rent, are completely impractical for the wet pavement. He looks up and down the street with the unmistakable expression of someone completely lost, his perfectly styled hair beginning to show the effects of the persistent mountain mist. What Luna doesn't know is that the confused tourist she's about to help isn't just another wealthy visitor who took a wrong turn leaving downtown Denver. He's Alexander Hartwell, CEO of Meridian Development Corporation, one of the most powerful real estate moguls on the West Coast, and he's not lost at all. He's been walking these streets for hours, meticulously documenting every building, every business, every detail of the neighborhood that his company plans to transform into luxury condominiums and upscale retail spaces. In the next 2 hours, their worlds will collide in a way that will forever change not just their lives, but the fate of an entire community. The rain begins to fall more steadily now, turning the gentle mist into proper droplets that catch the light like tiny diamonds. Luna notices the man's increasingly desperate attempts to shield his phone from the moisture while trying to navigate what appears to be a mapping application. His frustration is palpable, the kind of agitation that comes from being a person accustomed to control suddenly finding himself in an unfamiliar situation. This stretch of Riverside District tells a story in every weathered brick and hand-painted shop sign. Martinez Family Grocery, where 3 generations have served the community, sits next to Rainbow Dreams Bakery, run by Mrs. Chen, who fled Vietnam 40 years ago and now employs half a dozen local teenagers. The old theater, currently being restored by community volunteers, displays a hand-lettered sign announcing next month's production of Our Town, performed entirely by neighborhood residents. Luna has witnessed this neighborhood's evolution firsthand. When she first moved here fresh out of college, it was rough around the edges. Empty storefronts, struggling families, streets that emptied after dark. But something magical happened over the years. Instead of waiting for outside investment or government intervention, the residents began investing in each other. Community gardens sprouted in vacant lots. Local artists covered blank walls with murals celebrating the area's multicultural heritage. Small business owners supported each other through tough times, creating an informal network of mutual aid that kept money circulating within the neighborhood. The man under the streetlight appears to be in his early 40s with the kind of posture that speaks of boardrooms and corner offices. His charcoal wool coat is tailored perfectly, and even in his apparent distress, there's an air of authority about him that suggests he's more accustomed to giving directions than asking for them. He's been standing there for nearly 10 minutes now, occasionally glancing toward the community center with an expression Luna can't quite read. What strikes her most is how out of place he seems, yet how intently he's observing everything around him. This isn't the casual curiosity of a tourist. There's something more deliberate about his attention to the architectural details, the way he seems to be measuring distances with his eyes, how he pauses to photograph certain buildings with a professional-grade camera that definitely didn't come from a typical vacation kit. He sighs. The community center behind Luna represents everything this neighborhood has become. Once an abandoned warehouse, it was transformed through countless volunteer hours into a hub of activity. The building houses after-school programs, ESL classes for recent immigrants, a computer lab where teenagers learn coding, and meeting spaces where residents organize everything from block parties to city council campaigns. The mural covering its entire south wall was painted collaboratively by over 100 community members, each contributing a piece that represents their personal story while creating a unified vision of hope and resilience. Luna adjusts her grip on the art supplies, feeling the familiar weight of construction paper, crayons, and paintbrushes that will become tomorrow's creative expressions. These supplies represent more than just materials. They're possibilities, dreams waiting to be shaped by small hands that might not otherwise have access to such resources. Every crayon and every sheet of paper is a tiny investment in futures that could bloom into something extraordinary. The rain continues to intensify, and Luna watches as the well-dressed stranger finally gives up on his phone and begins looking around for shelter or assistance. There's something vulnerable about the way his confident demeanor cracks just slightly, revealing what might be uncertainty beneath the polished exterior. In that moment, he looks less like a successful businessman and more like simply another human being in need of help. This is the moment that will change everything, not just for Luna and Alexander, but for every person who calls Riverside District home. Two different worlds, two completely different perspectives on value and progress, are about to intersect on a rain-soaked street corner. Neither of them could possibly imagine how this simple act of kindness will ripple outward, touching lives they haven't even met yet, and ultimately reshaping what it means to build a community worth preserving. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Before we dive deeper into Luna and Alexander's life-changing encounter, I want to hear from you, our incredible community of storytellers and dreamers. Drop a comment below and tell us. Have you ever helped a complete stranger only to discover they were someone completely unexpected? Maybe you gave directions to someone who turned out to be famous, or lent a hand to a person who later became important in your life? Your stories of unexpected connections inspire the content we create, and I read every single comment. And speaking of unexpected connections, where in the world are you watching from right now? I love seeing our global family come together around these stories. Whether you're tuning in from a bustling city like New York or Tokyo, a quiet small town in rural Montana, or somewhere completely different, let me know in the comments. There's something magical about knowing that right now, people from dozens of countries are all experiencing this same story together, all feeling the same anticipation about what's going to unfold between Luna and Alexander. If you're new here, welcome to our community where every story matters and every person has value, just like the tale we're about to continue. We specialize in finding those incredible real-life moments that remind us how connected we all truly are, how a single act of kindness can ripple outward in ways we never imagine. These aren't just feel-good stories. They're proof that ordinary people doing ordinary acts of decency can create extraordinary change. Now, here's something special I want to share with you. Tomorrow, I've got a story that will absolutely blow your mind. It involves a night shift janitor who discovered something in a corporate office that led to one of the most heartwarming plot twists you've ever heard. I'm talking about a discovery that changed not just his life, but the lives of hundreds of people in ways that will restore your faith in humanity. It's the kind of story that makes you want to call someone you love and tell them how much they mean to you. But that's tomorrow. Today, we're here for Luna and Alexander, and trust me, what happens next will have you questioning everything you think you know about first impressions and hidden motives. If this story is already pulling at your heartstrings, and I can see from the early comments that it is, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We drop new stories like this one every single day, and you won't want to miss them. Plus, subscribing helps us reach more people who need to hear these reminders that goodness still exists in the world. I also want to remind you about our community challenge that's happening right now. This month, we're encouraging everyone to perform one unexpected act of kindness for a stranger, just like Luna is about to do. It doesn't have to be dramatic or expensive. Maybe it's helping someone carry groceries, giving genuine directions when someone looks lost, or simply offering a smile to someone who looks like they're having a rough day. Then, come back and share your experience in the comments of any of our videos. At the end of the month, I'll be featuring some of your kindness stories in a special compilation video. Some of you have already started sharing your acts of kindness from last week's challenge, and honestly, your stories are bringing tears to my eyes. Sarah from Portland helped an elderly man change a flat tire and discovered he was a retired teacher who taught her own father decades ago. Miguel from Austin bought coffee for the person behind him in line and ended up in a 2-hour conversation that led to a new friendship and a job opportunity. These connections are happening because you're choosing to see the humanity in strangers. That's exactly what Luna is about to do in our story. But what makes this encounter different is that sometimes, when we help others, we end up helping ourselves in ways we never expected. Sometimes, the universe has a way of putting the right people in our path at exactly the right moment, even when, especially when, we have no idea who those people really are. Before we jump back into Denver's Riverside District, I want you to keep something in mind as you watch Luna's story unfold. This isn't just about a wealthy CEO and a dedicated teacher. This is about the power of authentic human connection to transcend every barrier we think separates us. It's about how genuine kindness has the power to change minds, open hearts, and sometimes even alter the course of entire communities. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and prepare yourself for a story that will remind you why small acts of kindness matter more than we ever realize. Luna has no idea that the next few minutes of her life are about to set in motion a chain of events that will impact not just her own future, but the future of everyone she cares about in the Riverside District. Are you ready to see what happens when two completely different worlds collide on a rainy street corner in Denver? Let's find out together. Luna Martinez knows every crack in the sidewalk, every loose brick in the old buildings, and every shortcut through the maze of alleyways that make up Denver's Riverside District. At 28, she's become something of a neighborhood encyclopedia, the person everyone turns to when they need directions, recommendations, or just someone who genuinely cares about their problems. Her apartment is a modest one-bedroom above Garcia's hardware store, where the rent is affordable and the smell of sawdust drifts up through the floorboards, a comforting reminder of her grandfather's workshop back in New Mexico. Each morning begins at 5:30 a.m. with the sound of her neighbor Mrs. Petrov practicing violin scales. The elderly Russian woman moved to the district 15 years ago and has been Luna's unofficial alarm clock ever since. Luna doesn't mind. There's something beautiful about starting each day with music, even if it's sometimes slightly off-key. She uses those early moments to prepare lesson plans for her third-grade class at Riverside Elementary, a school that serves one of the most diverse student populations in Denver. Her daily routine is a carefully orchestrated dance of efficiency born from necessity. After a quick breakfast of coffee and toast, usually eaten while standing at her kitchen counter reviewing the day's schedule, she walks the 8 blocks to school, greeting familiar faces along the way. Roberto opens his food cart at exactly 6:45 a.m., always waving to Luna with flour-dusted hands. The Thompson twins, elderly brothers who run the vintage bookstore, are always arranging their sidewalk display of discounted paperbacks, and they save the best educational books for Luna's classroom. Teaching third grade means wearing a dozen different hats throughout the day. Luna is part educator, part counselor, part nurse, and part detective, figuring out which of her students might be hungry, struggling at home, or simply need extra attention. Her classroom is a vibrant explosion of color and creativity, with student artwork covering every available wall space and plants growing on windowsills, gifts from parents who work in the community gardens. Hero. Her students reflect the beautiful complexity of the Riverside District. There's Amira, whose family fled Syria 3 years ago and who speaks 4 languages but still struggles with English idioms. Jamie lives with his grandmother, while his mother works 2 jobs to support them. Destiny has a gift for mathematics that rivals students twice her age, but her family can barely afford school supplies. Each child carries their own unique story, their own challenges and dreams, and Luna has made it her mission to nurture every single one. The afternoon brings her second job, or rather her calling. 3 days a week, Luna volunteers at the Riverside Community Center, coordinating after-school programs that serve over 100 local children. It's unpaid work, but Luna considers it the most important part of her day. These programs fill the gap between the end of the school day and when working parents can pick up their children, providing a safe space where kids can get help with homework, participate in art projects, learn music, or simply have a nutritious snack. Luna's specialty is the art program, where she transforms donated supplies into creative adventures. Last month, they created a mural celebrating the different cultures represented in the neighborhood. Each child contributed something that represented their family's heritage: Mexican papel picado, Korean hanbok patterns, Ethiopian coffee ceremonies, Polish paper dolls. The result was a beautiful tapestry that now decorates the community center's main hallway. Her apartment reflects her dual passions for teaching and community work. Every surface holds something related to her students or the neighborhood kids: handmade cards, small gifts crafted in art class, photographs from community events. Her refrigerator is covered with drawings and thank you notes, some in languages she can't read but whose sentiment she understands perfectly. The bookshelf overflows with picture books, educational materials, and volumes on child development, many purchased from her own modest salary because the school's budget is stretched thin. Money is always tight, but Luna has mastered the art of creative resourcefulness. She shops at the discount grocery store on the edge of the district, clips coupons religiously, and has developed a network of teachers who share supplies and materials. Her wardrobe consists mainly of comfortable, practical clothes that can withstand finger paints, playground duty, and the occasional scraped knee that needs tending. She's learned to find joy in simple pleasures: a perfect cup of coffee, a student's breakthrough moment, the laughter of children playing in the community center. Evenings are spent either grading papers and preparing lessons or working on community center projects. Luna often stays late to help organize events, write grant applications for program funding, or simply ensure that every child has been safely picked up. She's developed relationships with most of the families in the neighborhood, understanding their struggles, celebrating their successes, and serving as an informal liaison between the school and the community. Her social life revolves around the neighborhood as well. Friday nights might find her at the community center's adult ESL classes, where she helps new immigrants navigate everything from grocery shopping to parent-teacher conferences. Weekends often involve community garden work, neighborhood cleanup projects, or simply being available for the countless small crises that arise when you're known as someone who genuinely cares. Luna's greatest skill might be her ability to see potential where others see problems. She looks at struggling students and sees future leaders. She walks through areas that others might consider rundown and sees the strong community bonds, the mutual support systems, the incredible resilience of families who care for each other despite economic challenges. This perspective has made her not just a teacher, but an informal community advocate, someone who speaks up at city council meetings and organizes her neighbors when their voices need to be heard. Tonight, carrying those art supplies through the gentle rain, Luna embodies everything that makes the Riverside district special. She's tired but fulfilled, financially stretched but rich in relationships, always busy but never too busy to help someone in need. In a few moments, she'll make a decision that seems simple, helping a lost stranger, but will ultimately test everything she believes about her community and its future. 5 years ago, Luna Martinez was a completely different person, with completely different dreams. Fresh out of the University of Colorado, with a degree in elementary education and a minor in art therapy, she had her sights set on one of Denver's prestigious suburban school districts, places with generous budgets, small class sizes, and students whose biggest challenges were choosing between violin and piano lessons. She'd grown up in Taos, New Mexico, in a middle-class family where her father managed a successful construction business and her mother worked as a bank loan officer. Education was valued, college was expected, and success was measured by salary and zip code. Her original plan was simple and conventional: land a teaching job in Cherry Creek or Boulder Valley, work her way up to curriculum specialist, maybe eventually become a principal. She'd already interviewed at 3 different suburban schools during her final semester, each offering the kind of structured, well-funded environment where teachers could focus purely on academics without worrying about whether their students had eaten breakfast or had a safe place to sleep at night. The interview at Riverside Elementary was supposed to be practice, a warm-up for the real interviews at better schools. Luna had stumbled across the job posting while browsing the district website, and figured she could use the experience of interviewing at what she assumed would be a challenging urban school. Her education professors had mentioned these types of schools in passing, usually as cautionary tales about burned-out teachers and impossible working conditions. That April morning, Luna drove through the Riverside district for the first time, windows up and doors locked, making quick judgments about the neighborhood based on her suburban upbringing. She saw the peeling paint on some buildings, the chain-link fences around small yards, the older cars parked along the streets, and assumed she understood what kind of school she was walking into. Her prepared interview answers focused on classroom management and academic standards, strategies for dealing with difficult students and uninvolved parents. Principal Henderson, a weathered woman in her 50s with kind eyes and calloused hands, led Luna through hallways that were nothing like the pristine suburban schools she'd visited. The walls were covered with student artwork, handmade posters in multiple languages, and photographs of community events. Instead of silence, there was the sound of children laughing, teachers singing, and genuine engagement happening behind every classroom door. "Tell me why you want to teach here," Principal Henderson had asked, and Luna launched into her practiced response about educational equity and serving all students. But then something unexpected happened. A third grader named Carlos knocked on the office door, tears streaming down his face holding a broken toy. Without hesitation, Principal Henderson got down on her knees, examined the toy, and spent 5 minutes working with Carlos to fix it, all while continuing to listen to Luna's answers. "That's better, mijo. Now you can go show Ms. Rodriguez what a good job you did on your reading today," Principal Henderson said, and Carlos left with a huge smile. She turned back to Luna as if nothing unusual had happened. "You were saying about educational equity?" The moment that changed everything came during the classroom observation. Luna was supposed to demonstrate a sample lesson to Mrs. Kim's third-grade class, the same age group she'd be teaching. She'd prepared a standard lesson on fractions using manipulatives and worksheets, the kind of thing that would impress suburban interview committees with its organization and clear learning objectives. But when she walked into the classroom, Luna met eyes that held stories she'd never encountered in her privileged upbringing. There was Fatima, whose family had arrived from Somalia 6 months earlier and who was just beginning to navigate English. Miguel, whose obvious intelligence was masked by a stutter that made him reluctant to speak in class. Aisha, who wore the same clothes 3 days in a row, but whose enthusiasm for learning blazed from every gesture. Luna found herself abandoning her prepared lesson entirely. Instead, she started asking the children about their favorite foods, and before she knew it, they were learning fractions by dividing imaginary pizzas, tacos, and samosas. The lesson became a celebration of the different cultures represented in the classroom, with students teaching each other about their family's traditions while mastering mathematical concepts. For the first time in her academic career, Luna felt like she was truly teaching, not just delivering curriculum, but connecting with human beings who brought richness and complexity to every learning moment. These weren't the difficult students she'd been warned about. They were children with incredible stories, remarkable resilience, and a hunger for knowledge that put her suburban practice students to shame. The other interviews that week felt hollow in comparison. The suburban schools offered higher salaries, better resources, and easier working conditions, but Luna couldn't stop thinking about Carlos's smile when his toy was fixed, or the way Fatima's eyes lit up when she successfully explained a fraction concept in her careful English. She kept thinking about Principal Henderson's casual kindness, the way the teachers collaborated instead of competed, and how the entire school felt like a family rather than an institution. When Riverside Elementary offered her the position, Luna shocked her parents, her professors, and herself by accepting immediately. Her father couldn't understand why she'd choose a rough school when better options were available. Her mother worried about safety and career advancement. Her education professors warned her about burnout and suggested she gain experience in easier environments first. But Luna had discovered something in that classroom observation that she'd never felt in 4 years of education courses: purpose. Not just the purpose of teaching children to read and write, but the deeper purpose of seeing and nurturing the potential in young people who others might overlook or underestimate. Her first year was harder than anything she'd imagined. She cried in her car after difficult days, questioned her decision during parent conferences conducted in 3 different languages, and spent her own money on supplies when the budget ran short. But she also experienced moments of pure joy that no suburban classroom could have provided. The day Miguel overcame his stutter to deliver a perfect presentation, when Fatima's family invited her to their Eid celebration, when Aisha's mother finally found stable employment, and the difference showed immediately in her daughter's confidence. Somewhere during that first year, Luna realized she hadn't just chosen a job, she'd chosen a calling. The Riverside District wasn't a stepping stone to something better. It was exactly where she belonged. Over the past 5 years, Luna has developed an unshakable set of principles that guide every decision she makes, both in her classroom and in her community work. Her core belief that every person deserves to be seen, heard, and valued regardless of their circumstances isn't just an abstract philosophy. It's a living practice that she demonstrates dozens of times each day through small acts of recognition and respect. In her classroom, this means learning not just her students' names, but the correct pronunciation of names that other teachers have anglicized for convenience. She spent hours practicing the rolling R's in Roberto's name, the soft clicks in Aisha's surname, and the tonal variations in Liwei's family name. When parent-teacher conferences come around, Luna doesn't just discuss academic progress. She asks about grandparents' health, celebrates siblings' achievements, and remembers details about family traditions that students have shared during morning circle time. This attention to dignity extends to how she handles her students' economic realities. When she notices that certain children consistently forget their lunch money, Luna has developed a discreet system of classroom jobs that allow them to earn meal tickets without shame. Marcus can earn lunch by watering the classroom plants. Destiny gets meal tickets for organizing the art supplies. To an outside observer, it looks like Luna is simply teaching responsibility and work ethic, but she's actually ensuring that no child in her care goes hungry while preserving their pride. Luna's apartment has become an unofficial supply depot for families in need. Her closet contains a carefully organized collection of gently used children's clothing in various sizes, donated by suburban families and redistributed with absolute discretion. When she notices a student wearing the same outfit repeatedly, she might casually mention that she has some clothes that are too small for her niece, and would they mind helping her by taking them off her hands. The transaction becomes a favor to Luna rather than charity, allowing families to maintain their dignity while ensuring children have clean clothes for school. Her financial choices reflect these same values. Despite her modest teacher's salary, Luna has never missed sending money to her parents in New Mexico or contributing to the community center's emergency fund for families facing crisis. She drives a 15-year-old Honda Civic that she maintains herself with help from Carlos's father, who runs an auto repair shop and refuses to charge her full price for parts. Her wardrobe consists mainly of practical pieces from discount stores, but she always ensures she looks professional and approachable, understanding that how she presents herself affects how others perceive her students and their families. The neighborhood has responded to Luna's genuine investment by creating an informal support network around her. Mrs. Chen from the bakery saves day-old pastries for Luna's after-school program, understanding that healthy snacks can make the difference between a productive learning session and chaos among hungry children. The librarian, Ms. Rodriguez, sets aside new children's books for Luna's classroom before they hit the general circulation, knowing that Luna will use them to create engaging lessons that connect literature to her students' lived experiences. Luna's approach to community organizing reflects the same principles of dignity and respect. When the city proposed cutting funding for the after-school programs, Luna didn't just rally parents to attend city council meetings. She spent weeks helping them prepare to speak confidently in public forums. She organized practice sessions where parents could rehearse their comments, arranged for translation services, and even coordinated childcare so that working parents could attend evening meetings. During the budget hearings, Luna made sure that the parents spoke first, sharing their own stories and expertise about their children's needs. She positioned herself as a supporter rather than a spokesperson, understanding that authentic community advocacy must come from the people most affected by the decisions. When the council ultimately restored the funding, the victory belonged to the parents, not to Luna, though everyone understood her crucial role in making their voices heard. Her relationship with local business owners demonstrates how she's learned to build bridges across different perspectives and interests. When some shop owners complained about teenagers loitering after school, Luna didn't dismiss their concerns or defend the kids defensively. Instead, she organized meetings where business owners could meet the teenagers as individuals, share their expectations, and work together to create solutions. The result was a system where teenagers help with simple tasks, like sweeping sidewalks or carrying supplies in exchange for small payments, and the chance to build professional references. This collaborative approach has turned potential conflicts into partnerships. Roberto now employs 2 high school students part-time at his food cart, teaching them business skills while getting help during busy periods. The bookstore owners started a program where teenagers can earn store credit by reading to younger children during Saturday story hours. These aren't just jobs. They're investments in young people's futures that strengthen the entire community. Luna has also learned to navigate the complex dynamics of a diverse neighborhood with grace and cultural sensitivity. When tensions arose between longtime Mexican-American residents and newer Somali families over use of the community center's kitchen facilities, Luna organized cooking classes where families from different cultures taught each other traditional recipes. The shared meals that resulted from these classes became monthly potluck celebrations that now serve as the neighborhood's primary social gathering. Her leadership style emphasizes empowerment over dependency, When parents approach her with problems, Luna's first question is always, "What solutions have you thought of?" She provides information, resources, and support, but she consistently pushes decision-making back to the people who will live with the consequences. This approach has created a culture of problem-solving rather than problem reporting, where community members see themselves as agents of change rather than passive recipients of help. Through all of this work, Luna has maintained clear boundaries that protect both her effectiveness and her emotional well-being. She's learned when to say no to requests that would stretch her too thin, how to advocate for her students without overstepping parental authority, and how to support community initiatives without trying to control every outcome. These boundaries aren't walls. They're the foundation that allows her to give generously without burning out. What drives Luna Martinez forward each day isn't just the satisfaction of helping individual students or families. It's her expanding vision of what the Riverside District could become. Over the past 2 years, she's begun to see patterns and possibilities that extend far beyond her classroom walls, recognizing that the community's greatest strength lies not in outside investment or government programs, but in the untapped potential of its own residents. This realization crystallized during last summer's community garden project, when Luna discovered that Mrs. Petrov, her violin-playing neighbor, had been a renowned agricultural scientist in Russia before immigrating to America. Rather than simply acknowledging this interesting fact, Luna saw an opportunity. She convinced Mrs. Petrov to lead workshops on sustainable gardening techniques, transforming what had been a modest collection of vegetable plots into a sophisticated urban farming initiative that now provides fresh produce for 3 local restaurants and generates income for 12 families. The success of that project sparked something deeper in Luna's thinking. She began conducting informal interviews with longtime residents, discovering a treasure trove of professional expertise and life experience that had been overlooked by traditional economic development approaches. Miguel's grandfather had been a master carpenter in Guatemala. Fatima's mother was a trained nurse whose credentials weren't recognized in the United States, but whose knowledge remained invaluable. Carlos's uncle had managed a successful small business in Mexico City before circumstances forced him to start over in Denver. Luna started keeping detailed notes about these conversations, not out of academic curiosity, but because she could envision how this collective knowledge could be woven together into something transformative. She imagines a future where Mrs. Petrov's agricultural expertise combines with the grandfather's woodworking skills to create beautiful raised garden beds that could be sold to suburban homeowners, where Fatima's mother's medical knowledge helps establish a community health education program that could serve as a model for other urban neighborhoods. Her vision extends to the children she teaches daily. When she looks at 8-year-old Destiny's mathematical brilliance, Luna doesn't just see a student who needs enrichment activities. She sees a future engineer who could return to design sustainable housing solutions for urban communities. When she watches Jamie's natural leadership abilities emerge during group projects, she envisions him as a community organizer who could help other neighborhoods replicate the Riverside District's collaborative approach to problem-solving. These aren't just pleasant daydreams. Luna has begun taking concrete steps to make these possibilities real. She's been quietly researching grant opportunities for community-based economic development, attending online webinars about social entrepreneurship, and building relationships with faculty members at the University of Colorado's Business School who specialize in community development. She's learned about microfinance programs, cooperative business models, and policy frameworks that support neighborhood-level innovation. Her most ambitious project is still in the planning stages, but it keeps her awake at night with excitement rather than worry. Luna has been developing a proposal for what she calls the Riverside Skills Exchange, a formal program that would identify and catalog the professional expertise within the community, then create structured opportunities for knowledge transfer and collaborative ventures. The elderly residents could mentor younger ones, parents could teach each other practical skills, and teenagers could learn real-world applications for their academic studies. The program would operate on principles of reciprocity rather than charity. Mrs. Petrov teaches gardening techniques in exchange for English conversation practice with bilingual teenagers. The carpenter shares woodworking skills while learning basic computer literacy from high school students. Parents with business experience help others develop side enterprises while getting assistance with their own children's homework. Everyone gives something, everyone receives something, and the entire community grows stronger. Luna has already identified potential pilot participants and begun informal conversations about their interest. The response has been overwhelmingly positive but also revealing of deeper challenges. Many residents express enthusiasm tempered by previous disappointments with outside programs that promised much but delivered little. Others worry about time commitments when they're already working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Some fear that success might attract unwanted attention from developers or government agencies looking to change the neighborhood's character. These concerns have pushed Luna to think more strategically about protecting the community's autonomy while pursuing its development. She's been studying examples of other neighborhoods that successfully balanced growth with preservation of their cultural identity and affordable housing. She's learned about community land trusts, resident-owned cooperatives, and zoning strategies that can prevent gentrification while encouraging local entrepreneurship. Her research has also connected her with a network of community development professionals who share her belief that the most sustainable economic growth comes from within communities rather than being imposed from outside. Through online forums and virtual conferences, Luna has found mentors who are helping her refine her vision and develop implementation strategies that have worked in similar urban neighborhoods. The most challenging aspect of Luna's evolving role has been learning to think beyond immediate needs toward systemic change. While she continues to help individual students and families navigate daily challenges, she's increasingly focused on creating structures that will reduce the need for such interventions in the future. Instead of just providing emergency assistance when families face eviction, she's working to establish a community-controlled, affordable housing fund. Rather than simply supplementing inadequate school resources with her own money, she's organizing parents to advocate for equitable funding policies at the district level. This shift from direct service to systemic thinking has required Luna to develop new skills and perspectives. She's been taking online courses in nonprofit management, attending community organizing workshops, and seeking mentorship from experienced advocates. She's learned to read city budgets, understand zoning regulations, and navigate the complex relationships between neighborhood organizations and municipal government. The work is often frustrating and always time-consuming, but Luna finds herself energized by the magnitude of the possibilities she can see taking shape. Every small success, a parent who speaks confidently at a school board meeting, a teenager who lands their first real job, a senior citizen who starts a small business, feels like a building block in a larger structure that could transform not just individual lives, but entire systems of opportunity and support. What sustains Luna through the difficult moments is her growing understanding that this work isn't just about improving conditions in one neighborhood. The collaborative, asset-based approach they're developing in the Riverside District could serve as a model for urban communities facing similar challenges across the country. She's begun documenting their strategies and outcomes, knowing that successful examples of community-led development are desperately needed by neighborhoods that have been overlooked by traditional economic development approaches. Alexander Hartwell stands at the pinnacle of West Coast real estate development, commanding a business empire that spans from Seattle to San Diego with annual revenues exceeding $2 billion. At 42, he's built Meridian Development Corporation into one of the most influential urban transformation companies in America, specializing in what the industry calls neighborhood revitalization, taking underutilized urban areas and converting them into high-value mixed-use developments that attract affluent residents and premium retailers. His reputation in the development world is legendary. Alexander doesn't just build buildings. He reshapes entire city districts according to carefully researched demographic trends and market analyses. The Hartwell model, as competitors have dubbed his approach, involves identifying neighborhoods on the cusp of gentrification, areas with good bones, convenient locations, and property values that haven't yet reflected their potential. He moves in quietly, acquires key properties through shell companies, then executes comprehensive redevelopment plans that can triple or quadruple property values within 5 years. The numbers that define Alexander's current success are staggering. His Seattle waterfront project generated over $400 million in revenue and won 3 national awards for innovative urban design. The Portland Arts District transformation increased local property values by 340%, while creating what city planners called a model for sustainable urban growth. His San Francisco mixed-use development became so desirable that units sold out before construction was completed, with average prices exceeding $3,000 per square foot. Tonight's reconnaissance mission in Denver's Riverside District represents his most ambitious project yet. Unlike his previous developments, which focused on already trendy areas adjacent to downtown cores, the Riverside District sits in what developers call a value gap, a neighborhood with excellent infrastructure and location that hasn't yet attracted significant investment attention. His preliminary market analysis suggests that this area could support luxury condominiums starting at $800,000, upscale retail spaces commanding premium rents, and boutique commercial developments catering to Denver's growing tech industry. Alexander's approach to site evaluation is methodical and comprehensive. He doesn't rely solely on demographic data and property records, though his team has certainly compiled extensive research on both. What sets him apart from other developers is his insistence on personally walking every street, documenting every building, and observing the actual patterns of daily life in neighborhoods he's considering for development. He believes that successful urban transformation requires understanding not just the economic potential of an area, but the social dynamics that will either support or resist change. The leather portfolio tucked inside his coat contains detailed plans that have been 18 months in development. His team has identified 47 properties that would need to be acquired for the first phase of development, including the community center, 3 blocks of mixed residential and small commercial buildings, and the elementary school site, which could be relocated to make way for a signature mixed-use tower. The projected timeline spans 7 years, with an estimated total investment of $1.2 billion and expected returns that would make this the most profitable project in Meridian's history. What makes this project particularly compelling from a business perspective is Denver's explosive growth in the technology sector. Companies like Google, Amazon, and numerous startups have established significant presences in the city, creating demand for housing that appeals to high-earning young professionals who want urban amenities with mountain access. Alexander's market research indicates that there are currently over 3,000 tech workers in Denver, earning above $150,000 annually, who are actively seeking housing in neighborhoods that offer walkability, cultural authenticity, and reasonable commute times to downtown office buildings. The Riverside District checks every box on Alexander's development criteria. The neighborhood sits just 12 minutes from downtown Denver by light rail, with excellent highway access for residents who prefer driving. The existing architecture includes several buildings from the 1920s and 1930s that could be preserved and incorporated into new developments, providing the historic character that affluent buyers increasingly demand. The current zoning allows for mid-rise development, and Alexander's preliminary conversations with city planning officials suggest that variances for higher density construction would likely be approved given the city's stated goals for urban growth. His financial projections for the Riverside project are based on proven formulas from previous developments. Phase 1 would involve acquiring and demolishing the lower-value residential properties, then constructing luxury condominiums and ground-floor retail spaces. The community center site would become a boutique hotel with conference facilities, capitalizing on Denver's growing business tourism market. The school property would support a 15-story mixed-use tower combining premium apartments, office space for small tech companies, and street-level restaurants and shops. Phase 2 would focus on the remaining residential areas, converting existing buildings into upscale townhomes and constructing additional mid-rise developments. The current small businesses would be replaced by establishments that catered to the new demographic: artisanal coffee shops, yoga studios, organic markets, and restaurants featuring locally sourced cuisine at price points that reflect the neighborhood's elevated status. Alexander's team has already begun the preliminary legal work for property acquisition. They've researched ownership records, identified properties with tax liens or other vulnerabilities, and developed offering strategies for each type of property owner. The approach varies depending on the situation. Elderly homeowners might be offered generous buyouts that allow them to relocate comfortably, while struggling landlords could be presented with opportunities to sell at prices significantly above current market value. The timeline for this evening's reconnaissance was carefully planned around Alexander's other commitments. He flew in from San Francisco this morning after closing a deal for a mixed-use development in Oakland, attended meetings with Denver city planners and potential local investors, and now has several hours before his red-eye flight back to Seattle for tomorrow's board meeting. This personal site evaluation represents the final step before making his formal recommendation to Meridian's investment committee about proceeding with land acquisition. What Alexander finds during tonight's walk through the neighborhood will determine whether Meridian moves forward with what could be the company's largest and most transformative project to date. Despite the impressive financial metrics and industry accolades that define Alexander's professional success, he finds himself increasingly haunted by questions that have no place in board meetings or investor presentations. The doubts began 18 months ago during a routine site visit to his completed Portland development, when he discovered that the vibrant neighborhood he had transformed into an upscale destination had displaced every single family that had been living there when he first started the project. The realization struck him while standing in what used to be a community park where children played while their parents gathered on weekends. In its place stood a luxury fitness center with monthly membership fees that exceeded what many of the former residents had paid for rent. The transformation was everything Meridian Development had promised investors. Property values had increased dramatically. The area attracted affluent residents and premium businesses, and the project won awards for innovative urban design. Yet Alexander couldn't shake the image of the empty swings he had noticed during his initial site surveys, now replaced by expensive exercise equipment used by people who had never known the neighborhood's previous incarnation. This troubling awareness intensified during a conversation with his daughter Emma during one of their monthly dinners. At 22, fresh out of college with a degree in social work, Emma had been volunteering with displaced families in Oakland, many of whom had been forced to move due to development projects similar to her father's work. She didn't know about his specific role in neighborhood transformations. Alexander had always described his work in general terms as urban planning and development, but her stories about families losing their homes and communities being scattered resonated with uncomfortable familiarity. The hardest part, Emma had told him over dinner at an expensive Seattle restaurant that embodied the kind of establishment his developments typically attracted, is that these families don't just lose their houses. They lose their entire support systems. Grandparents who helped with childcare, neighbors who shared meals during tough times, community centers where kids got help with homework, all of that disappears when neighborhoods get completely redeveloped. Alexander found himself thinking about Emma's words during every subsequent project evaluation. He began paying attention to details that had never appeared in his market analyses. The elderly men who gathered in the small park adjacent to his San Francisco development site. The informal childcare networks that operated out of apartment buildings he was planning to demolish. The small businesses that served as community gathering places even though they generated minimal revenue. The disconnect between his professional success and personal satisfaction has become increasingly difficult to ignore. Alexander's penthouse apartment in Seattle overlooks Elliott Bay, with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcase stunning water and mountain views. The space is immaculately designed, featuring custom furniture, original artwork, and technology that responds to voice commands. Yet he often finds himself standing at those windows, looking down at the bustling neighborhood below, wondering about the lives of people whose stories he's never heard. His social circle consists primarily of other successful executives, real estate professionals, and wealthy investors who share his appreciation for fine dining, exclusive travel destinations, and cultural events that require significant financial investment. These relationships, while professionally valuable and personally pleasant, lack the depth and authenticity that Alexander increasingly craves. Conversations tend to focus on market trends, investment opportunities, or luxury experiences, rarely touching on topics that feel genuinely meaningful or personally revelatory. The isolation inherent in his lifestyle became particularly apparent during the recent holidays. Alexander spent Christmas at an exclusive resort in Aspen, surrounded by acquaintances who shared his socioeconomic status but little else. While others seemed genuinely content with conversations about ski conditions and real estate markets, Alexander found himself envying families he observed in the resort's main lodge, parents helping children with puzzles, grandparents sharing stories, siblings engaged in animated discussions about topics he couldn't overhear but that clearly mattered deeply to them. His relationship with his ex-wife Patricia ended partly because of this growing sense of disconnection. She had accused him of becoming emotionally unavailable, more invested in his business achievements than in their marriage or even his relationship with Emma. While Alexander initially dismissed these criticisms as unfair, he's begun to recognize their accuracy. His professional success requires a certain emotional detachment, the ability to see neighborhoods as investment opportunities rather than communities, to view displacement as an inevitable aspect of progress rather than a human tragedy. This emotional compartmentalization, while professionally advantageous, has left Alexander feeling increasingly hollow in his personal life. He exercises regularly, maintains his health through expensive medical care, and engages in hobbies that reflect his affluent lifestyle, yet none of these activities provide the sense of purpose or connection that he observes in others. His philanthropy consists mainly of check writing to established charities, significant donations that generate tax benefits and social recognition but require no personal engagement or relationship building. The most troubling aspect of Alexander's internal struggle is his growing awareness that his professional expertise in urban revitalization might actually be destroying the very communities and relationships that he personally craves. His developments create beautiful, efficient, profitable spaces that attract people like himself, successful, affluent, but somehow disconnected from the authentic community bonds that seem to flourish in the less polished neighborhoods he typically targets for transformation. During recent flights between project sites, Alexander has found himself studying the passengers around him, wondering about their lives, their families, their sense of connection to place and community. He envies the woman texting excitedly about her son's soccer game, the man carefully reviewing what appears to be wedding photos, the teenager reading a letter that obviously brings her joy. These glimpses into lives that seem richer in relationship and meaning than his own have intensified his questioning of whether professional success is sufficient for personal fulfillment. Tonight's walk through the Riverside District represents more than just another site evaluation for Alexander. He's hoping to understand what makes certain neighborhoods feel genuinely alive and connected, even when they lack the polish and economic vitality that his developments typically bring to urban areas. Part of him wonders whether it might be possible to create developments that enhance rather than displace existing community bonds, though he's uncertain whether such an approach could be financially viable or professionally defensible to Meridian's investors. The rain has transformed from a gentle mist into steady droplets that catch the amber streetlight like tiny prisms, creating an almost magical atmosphere in the Riverside District. Luna adjusts her grip on the art supplies, their plastic wrapping crinkling softly as she navigates around a puddle that has formed where the old sidewalk has settled unevenly over the years. The familiar sounds of the neighborhood at dusk surround her, the distant hum of conversations in Spanish floating from an open apartment window, the rhythmic thud of a basketball against the community center's exterior wall where teenagers often practice late into the evening, the gentle chime of wind bells that Mrs. Chen hung outside her bakery. Weiches. Alexander stands motionless under the flickering street lamp, his expensive coat beginning to show dark spots where the rain has penetrated the wool. His professional-grade camera hangs around his neck, protected by a leather case that probably costs more than most residents of this neighborhood spend on groceries in a month. The GPS on his phone has failed him completely. The address he was trying to locate doesn't seem to exist, and the mapping application keeps suggesting routes that lead to dead ends or construction barriers that his research team apparently missed during their desktop analysis. What strikes Luna first about the well-dressed stranger isn't his obvious wealth or his apparent confusion, but the intensity with which he's studying his surroundings. This isn't the casual observation of a typical lost tourist taking in local color while seeking directions. His gaze moves systematically from building to building, noting architectural details, measuring distances with his eyes, occasionally pulling out his phone to capture images of specific structures or street views. There's something almost clinical about his attention, the way a scientist might study specimens under a microscope. The community center behind Luna glows warmly in the evening light, its windows revealing the ongoing activities within. Through the large plate glass window facing the street, she can see the adult ESL class in session, where 15 residents of various ages practice English conversation while their children complete homework at small tables nearby. The scene represents everything Luna loves about this neighborhood: multiple generations learning together, families supporting each other's growth, and the kind of organic community building that happens when people genuinely care about each other's success. Alexander notices the same scene through the window, but his developer's eye processes the information differently. He sees a building that could be converted into luxury retail space, with the large windows perfect for showcasing high-end merchandise to pedestrian traffic. The wide-open interior could accommodate a boutique restaurant or artisanal coffee shop that would serve the affluent residents who would eventually populate his planned development. The children's artwork currently decorating the walls would be replaced by carefully curated local art pieces selected to appeal to sophisticated tastes and justify premium pricing. The moment of convergence arrives when a particularly strong gust of wind sends Alexander's portfolio papers scattering across the wet pavement. Several sheets flutter toward Luna, who instinctively drops to her knees to help gather them before they can be damaged by the rain or blown into the street. As she reaches for a document that has landed near her feet, she glimpses technical drawings of buildings that look remarkably similar to the structure surrounding them, though somehow transformed. taller, more polished, fundamentally different in character. "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry," Luna says, quickly collecting the scattered papers without examining them closely, her teacher's instinct for helpfulness overriding any curiosity about their contents. She hurries toward Alexander, who is frantically chasing down other documents that have blown in different directions. "Here, let me help you with those." Alexander looks up from where he's crouched beside a parked car, retrieving papers from beneath its bumper, and finds himself face to face with someone who represents everything his market research had failed to capture about this neighborhood. Luna's expression is genuinely concerned rather than suspicious, her immediate impulse to help a stranger rather than ignore his predicament. Her clothes are practical rather than fashionable, jeans that have clearly seen plenty of wear, a warm sweater that looks hand-knitted, and sturdy shoes designed for walking long distances on uneven sidewalks. "Thank you so much," Alexander manages, accepting the papers she's gathered while trying to shield the remaining documents from the rain. "I can't believe I was careless enough to let them get away from me." Luna notices his accent, educated, probably East Coast originally, though softened by years elsewhere. His shoes, she observes, are completely inappropriate for wet pavement, designed more for boardrooms than neighborhood streets. There's something endearingly vulnerable about watching this obviously successful man struggle with something as simple as managing papers in the wind, and her natural instinct is to make sure he gets to wherever he's trying to go safely. "Are you looking for something specific?" she asks, noting how his hands shake slightly as he attempts to reorganize his documents. "I know this neighborhood pretty well. I might be able to help you find what you're looking for." The question hangs in the air between them, loaded with significance that neither fully understands. Alexander is indeed looking for something specific, though it's not a location but rather a deeper understanding of what makes communities like this one function, what gives them their sense of vitality and connection. Luna is offering help in the most literal sense, but she's also unknowingly presenting herself as exactly the kind of authentic community member that Alexander has been hoping to understand better. The irony of the moment is lost on both of them. Luna sees someone in need of assistance and responds with the same generosity she would offer any neighbor. Alexander sees an opportunity to gain insider perspective on the neighborhood he's planning to transform, though something about Luna's immediate kindness makes him uncomfortable with the deception inherent in his presence here. The rain continues to fall steadily around them, creating a sense of intimacy and urgency that draws them closer together under the inadequate shelter of the flickering street lamp. Steam rises from the warm pavement, carrying the scent of wet concrete mixed with the aromatic spices drifting from nearby restaurants. In this moment, suspended between Alexander's hidden agenda and Luna's genuine offer of help, the trajectory of both their lives and the future of the entire Riverside district hangs in the balance. Alexander accepts Luna's offer of help with a mixture of relief and growing unease about his deception. "I'm actually looking for the Grandview Hotel," he lies smoothly, naming an upscale establishment several miles away that he knows will require a circuitous route through the heart of the neighborhood. "My GPS has been completely unreliable tonight, and I'm supposed to be there for a business dinner in an hour." Luna's face brightens with recognition. "Oh, you're pretty far from there." "The Grandview is downtown, but don't worry, I can get you headed in the right direction. Actually, let me walk with you to the light rail station. It'll be much faster than trying to drive through rush hour traffic, and you won't have to worry about parking." She adjusts the art supplies in her arms, seemingly unconcerned about the inconvenience of escorting a stranger across the neighborhood. As they begin walking, Alexander finds himself genuinely curious about the woman who stopped everything to help him. "Those look like school supplies," he observes, nodding toward the colorful packages she's carrying. "Are you a teacher?" "Third grade at Riverside Elementary," Luna confirms with obvious pride. "But these are actually for our after-school art program at the community center. We just got a donation from a family in Cherry Creek whose kids outgrew their art supplies, so tomorrow about 30 kids are going to have the best day ever with brand new crayons and construction paper." The simple joy in her voice as she describes children's excitement over basic art supplies strikes Alexander unexpectedly. In his world, the best day ever might involve closing a multi-million-dollar deal or receiving recognition at an industry awards ceremony. The idea that new crayons could generate the same level of happiness feels both foreign and somehow more authentic than the satisfaction he derives from his professional achievements. "You volunteer at the community center too?" Alexander asks, genuinely interested despite himself. 3 days a week, Luna replies, stepping carefully around a puddle while maintaining her balance with the awkward bundle in her arms. It started as just helping kids with homework, but it's grown into all kinds of programs. We have adult ESL classes, a community garden project, job skills workshops, whatever people need, really. The amazing thing is how much expertise we have right here in the neighborhood. People just need opportunities to share what they know. As they walk, Luna provides a running commentary about the area that reveals a depth of knowledge and affection that no market research could have captured. She points out Mrs. Petrov's apartment, explaining how the elderly woman's agricultural background has transformed the community garden into a model urban farming project. She mentions the Thompson Brothers bookstore, where they host reading groups for adults learning English and story time for local children every Saturday morning. That's Roberto's food cart, she says, indicating a brightly painted vehicle parked at the corner. He's been here for 8 years, and he knows everyone's name in their usual order. When Mrs. Garcia was in the hospital last month, Roberto organized meal deliveries for her family without anyone asking. That's just how people are here. We take care of each other. Alexander listens with growing fascination and discomfort. Every story Luna tells represents exactly the kind of authentic community connections he's been craving in his own life, yet these are precisely the relationships his development would inevitably destroy. The small businesses she describes with such affection would be unable to afford the commercial rents his project would generate. The informal support network she celebrates would be scattered when families were displaced by rising housing costs. "How long have you lived in the neighborhood?" he asks, though he suspects he already knows the answer will complicate his feelings further. 5 years, Luna responds, her voice taking on a reflective quality. I actually plan to teach in the suburbs initially. You know, easier conditions, better resources, higher pay. But something about this place just captured my heart during my interview. The kids here have such incredible stories and dreams, and the families are so committed to building something positive together. I realized I didn't want an easier teaching job. I wanted to be part of something meaningful. Her words hit Alexander with unexpected force. Luna had actively chosen to be here, just as he had actively chosen his path toward financial success and professional recognition. Yet her choice seemed to have brought her the sense of purpose and authentic connection that continued to elude him despite all his achievements. The neighborhood is changing, though, Luna continues, a note of concern entering her voice. Property values are starting to go up, and some families are already talking about having to move somewhere more affordable. There are rumors about big development plans, though nothing concrete yet. We're trying to organize to make sure that any changes benefit the people who already live here, not just outside investors. Alexander feels his stomach tighten with guilt. The rumors Luna mentions are undoubtedly related to his team's preliminary research and property assessments. The outside investors she's concerned about include him and his company. Yet listening to her describe the community's efforts to preserve their neighborhood makes him question everything about his usual approach to development. What kind of changes would you want to see, he asks carefully, genuinely curious about her perspective while struggling with the deception of his question. Luna pauses thoughtfully, stepping around a section of sidewalk where tree roots have created an uneven surface. More resources for the school and community center, definitely. Maybe some new housing that working families can actually afford, not just luxury units. Support for the small businesses that give this place its character. Basically, growth that includes the people who are already here rather than replacing them. Her vision represents exactly the kind of community-centered development approach that Alexander has been wondering about lately, yet he's uncertain whether such projects could generate the returns that Meridian's investors expect. The conflict between his growing personal values and his professional obligations has never felt more acute than it does walking through this neighborhood with someone who embodies everything he's been missing in his own life. As they approach the light rail station, Alexander realizes that this brief encounter has provided him with more genuine human connection than he's experienced in months, perhaps years. Luna's easy warmth, her obvious commitment to her community, and her natural generosity toward a stranger have given him a glimpse of the kind of life and relationships he increasingly craves. As they reach the light rail platform, Alexander realizes he cannot board the train knowing what he knows, while Luna remains unaware of who he really is and what his presence in her neighborhood means. The weight of his deception has become unbearable during their 20-minute walk. especially as Luna shared increasingly personal stories about her students, her community work, and her hopes for the neighborhood's future. Every genuine moment of connection has intensified his guilt and forced him to confront the fundamental contradiction between his professional mission and his emerging personal values. "Luna," he says suddenly, stopping just short of the platform entrance. The use of her name, which she had mentioned while describing a mural her students created, catches her attention immediately. "I need to tell you something, and I'm not sure how you're going to react." Something in his tone makes Luna pause, her intuitive sensitivity to people's emotional states alerting her that this conversation has shifted into more serious territory. "Okay," she says simply, adjusting her grip on the art supplies and giving him her full attention. Alexander takes a deep breath, knowing that what he's about to reveal will likely end the most meaningful interaction he's had in years, but unable to continue with the dishonesty. "I wasn't really lost tonight. I was confused about a specific address, but that's not why I was in your neighborhood. I'm a real estate developer, and I've been walking through the Riverside district evaluating it for a major development project." Luna's expression doesn't change immediately, but Alexander can see her processing this information, connecting it to the scattered papers she helped him collect, remembering his systematic observation of buildings and his professional-grade camera. "What kind of development project?" she asks quietly. "The kind that would change everything," Alexander admits, his voice barely audible above the sound of an approaching train. "Luxury condominiums, upscale retail, boutique hotels. The community center would be demolished. The elementary school would be relocated. Most of the current residents wouldn't be able to afford to stay." The silence that follows feels interminable. Luna stares at him, and Alexander can see her reevaluating their entire interaction through this new lens. The wealthy stranger she had helped out of simple kindness was actually the embodiment of the outside threat her community had been organizing against. "You're one of the investors I've been worried about," she says finally, her voice steady but carrying an undertone of profound disappointment. "The rumors we've been hearing, those are about your project." "Yes," Alexander confirms, feeling simultaneously relieved to tell the truth and devastated by the pain he can see in her eyes. "My company has been researching this area for 18 months. We've identified properties for acquisition, developed financial projections, created preliminary architectural plans. I came here tonight to make final observations before recommending that we move forward with land purchases." Luna sets down her bundle of art supplies on a nearby bench, needing a moment to fully absorb what she's hearing. "So when you asked me about what changes I'd want to see in the neighborhood, you already knew that none of it mattered. You've already decided what's going to happen to our community." "That's just it," Alexander says urgently, stepping closer to her. "I hadn't decided anything until tonight. Until I met you and saw this place through your eyes. Everything you've shown me, everyone you've told me about, it's exactly what I've been missing in my own life. The authentic connections, the mutual support, the sense of purpose that comes from being part of something bigger than yourself." He runs his hands through his hair, struggling to articulate the profound shift in perspective that has occurred during their brief time together. "I've spent my career creating developments that attract people like me, successful, affluent, but somehow disconnected from real community. Tonight I realized that in the process, I've been destroying the very thing I've been searching for." Luna studies his face carefully, her teacher's instincts helping her evaluate the sincerity of his words. "So what are you saying? That you're going to recommend against the project?" "I don't know," Alexander admits honestly. "The financial pressure to move forward is enormous. My investors expect certain returns, my employees depend on these projects for their livelihoods, and my professional reputation is built on successful urban transformations. But I also can't unsee what I've learned tonight." The approaching train grows louder, its headlight visible in the distance, but neither of them moves toward the platform. "What did you learn?" Luna asks. Alexander looks back toward the neighborhood they just walked through, its warm lights glowing through the rain. "I learned that community isn't something you can build with architecture and urban planning. It's something that grows organically when people care about each other's well-being. I learned that the most valuable things in a neighborhood, like Roberto knowing everyone's name, or Mrs. Petrov teaching gardening skills, or you spending your evenings helping kids with art projects, can't be replicated in a luxury development." He turns back to Luna, his expression vulnerable, in a way that suggests this level of honesty is unfamiliar territory for him. "I also learned that there are people like you who choose meaning over money, who build their lives around service rather than success, and who have found the kind of fulfillment that I've been chasing through professional achievements. Luna remains quiet for a long moment, weighing his words against her protective instincts for her community. "You know what I think you learned?" she says finally. "You learned that you're not just a developer, you're a person who's been using professional success to avoid dealing with personal emptiness. Tonight forced you to confront that emptiness, and now you have to decide whether you're going to keep running from it or do something different." Her words hit Alexander with startling accuracy. "You're right," he says. "The question is whether it's possible to do something different when you've built your entire identity around being successful at something that now feels morally questionable." "That's not the question," Luna responds, picking up her art supplies and facing him directly. "The question is whether you care more about maintaining your professional reputation or finding a way to live with integrity. Because there are always options, if you're willing to be creative and take some risks." As the train arrives at the platform, Alexander realizes that this conversation has fundamentally altered not just his perspective on the Riverside project, but his understanding of what kind of life he wants to build for himself. The woman standing before him, who had initially seemed like simply another neighborhood resident to interview for market research, has become the catalyst for the most important decision of his career. 8 months later, the Riverside district buzzes with a different kind of energy than anyone could have predicted that rainy October evening when Luna first helped a lost stranger find his way. The transformation that has taken place bears no resemblance to the luxury development Alexander originally envisioned, yet it represents something far more revolutionary. A new model for community-centered urban growth that has attracted attention from city planners, social entrepreneurs, and community organizers across the country. Alexander's decision to walk away from the traditional development project sent shockwaves through Meridian Development Corporation and the broader real estate industry. His recommendation against proceeding with the Riverside acquisition initially sparked fierce resistance from investors who had already committed significant resources to the preliminary planning phases. The board meeting where he presented his alternative vision, a community partnership approach that would enhance rather than replace existing neighborhood assets, lasted nearly 6 hours and ended with his resignation as CEO. However, Alexander's departure from Meridian wasn't the end of his involvement with the Riverside district, but rather the beginning of an entirely new chapter in both his professional and personal life. Using his own capital and a network of impact investors he had cultivated over the years, Alexander established the Community Partnership Development Fund, a social enterprise dedicated to supporting neighborhood-driven growth initiatives. The Riverside district became the pilot project for this radically different approach to urban development. The transformation began with a series of community meetings that Alexander attended not as a developer with predetermined plans, but as someone genuinely seeking to understand residents' visions for their neighborhood's future. These gatherings, initially facilitated by Luna and other community leaders, revealed an impressive array of locally owned business ideas, infrastructure improvements, and social programs that residents had been discussing informally for years but lacked resources to implement. Mrs. Petrov's urban farming expertise, which Luna had mentioned during their first conversation, became the foundation for the Riverside Agricultural Cooperative. With technical assistance and startup funding from Alexander's new organization, the community garden expanded into a full-scale urban farm that now supplies produce to restaurants throughout Denver while employing 18 neighborhood residents. The cooperative's success has inspired similar projects in 4 other Denver neighborhoods. The elementary school, rather than being relocated to make way for luxury towers, received a complete renovation funded through a creative public-private partnership that Alexander helped structure. The new facility includes expanded classroom space, a state-of-the-art computer lab, and an innovative community classroom concept where local residents share their professional expertise with students. Carlos's grandfather now teaches woodworking skills to 5th graders, while Mrs. Chen offers cooking classes that celebrate the neighborhood's cultural diversity. The community center has evolved into something far more ambitious than Luna originally envisioned during her grant-writing efforts. Now called the Riverside Innovation Hub, the facility houses not only the original after-school programs and ESL classes, but also a business incubator for local entrepreneurs, a shared commercial kitchen for food-based startups, and meeting spaces for the neighborhood council that has become a model for grassroots democratic governance. Roberto's food cart success story exemplifies the kind of organic business growth the new model supports. With access to microfinance loans and business mentorship through the Innovation Hub, Roberto expanded his operation into a full restaurant that employs 12 people from the neighborhood. His success encouraged other aspiring entrepreneurs, leading to the development of what local media has dubbed Denver's most authentic cultural corridor, a 3-block stretch featuring businesses owned by immigrants from 7 different countries. Luna's role in these developments has expanded far beyond her original vision of community organizing. She now serves as the Director of Community Engagement for the Partnership Development Fund, a position that allows her to continue teaching part-time while helping other neighborhoods adapt the Riverside model to their unique circumstances. Her work involves traveling to urban communities across the country, facilitating the kind of asset mapping and visioning processes that have proven so successful in her own neighborhood. The professional partnership between Luna and Alexander has evolved into something deeper and more personal, though both approach their growing relationship with careful consideration of the complex dynamics involved. Their shared commitment to community-centered development created a foundation of common values, while their different backgrounds and perspectives have enriched both their professional collaboration and personal connection. They moved in together 6 months ago, choosing to remain in the Riverside district in a renovated apartment above what used to be the Thompson Brothers bookstore. Alexander's personal transformation has been as dramatic as his professional pivot. The man who once measured success primarily through financial metrics now finds fulfillment in projects that prioritize community well-being alongside economic sustainability. His new approach to development requires more creativity, patience, and collaboration than his previous work, but it has provided the sense of purpose and authentic connection that had been missing from his life for years. Here, the Riverside model has not been without challenges. Balancing community priorities with financial sustainability requires constant negotiation and creative problem-solving. Some residents initially viewed Alexander with suspicion, regardless of his changed approach, and building genuine trust took months of consistent demonstration of his commitment to community leadership. External pressures from other developers and city officials who favor more traditional approaches have also created ongoing political challenges. Yet the results speak for themselves. Property values in the Riverside district have increased modestly, enough to provide existing homeowners with improved equity while remaining affordable for working families. The neighborhood's crime rate has dropped significantly as community cohesion has strengthened. Most importantly, rather than experiencing the displacement that typically accompanies urban development, the area has actually attracted former residents to return, drawn by improved opportunities and preserved community character. The success of the Riverside project has attracted national attention from foundations, policymakers, and community development organizations seeking replicable models for inclusive urban growth. Luna and Alexander have been invited to present their approach at conferences, testify before congressional committees, and consult with other cities interested in implementing similar programs. Their story has become a powerful example of how unexpected encounters can lead to transformative change that benefits entire communities. As Luna walks through the neighborhood on this warm June evening, carrying art supplies for tomorrow's summer camp program, she reflects on how dramatically her life has changed since that rainy night when she stopped to help a stranger collect his scattered papers. The community she fought to preserve has not only survived, but thrived, evolving into something more vibrant and economically stable than she had dared imagine possible. The partnership that began with a simple act of kindness has grown into a national movement, demonstrating that development and displacement need not be synonymous, that growth and community preservation can coexist when approached with creativity, respect, and genuine collaboration. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.